This is episode 7, as we just found out, and this is another special episode, which I say every single friggin' episode. But, we have some crazy guests on here, and it seems like a lot of them have been family. So we're keeping that theme in check with the ultimate mother of, off to a great start. We got great. Dad calling, ironically. But, yeah, we got my mom in here, Dawn Gross, but we don't call her Dawn anymore. And we're here to talk about, just being the mom of the Scheunemans, which sounds so weird. But also, just to get right into things, I really want to talk to you a lot about neurofeedback, which I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what that is. But yeah, maybe, do you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction, or should I just hype you up for a long time?
You just go right ahead and hype me up.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we don't get too many opportunities to hear me just talk you up. But I mean, yeah, no, so I don't think I will do neurofeedback or your job justice, so you might want to explain that, and then maybe you could just talk about who you are as to me. I don't know.
Well, I thought it would be relevant to mention, obviously I'm your mother, and had the pleasure of raising you and watching you grow up, and it was it was a pleasure.
It was a journey.
It was a journey.
Yeah.
It was an adventure. I just wonder if people know. Well, I know when I saw your very first true interest in fashion. And
you probably would have had the best sight on that than anybody else. I mean,
yeah,
you always did. You were the best at hooking me up with some fashion, like with like birthdays and Christmas, and I feel like you could take some credit and kind of like, putting it in my head to like, oh, maybe you shouldn't dress like a complete bum.
Well, no, honestly, Julian, I have always enjoyed buying clothes for you. You've been very fun to shop for. But what I'm talking about goes back way further than that.
I know
I'm
what
talking
you're
about
gonna
the
say.
day that I decided I needed to go through all of the clothing in your dresser and eliminate everything that was not some form of costume or superhero.
I wasn't sure if you were going to go with costumes or marijuana-related clothing articles, because we've eliminated some of those together.
We're going back further than that.
What kind of
Yeah, no.
costumes? I don't even know about this.
You,
Oh yeah,
you
this
know.
is pre-Marquise. This is starting in what?
Wait, are we
maybe-
talking about like right when we've...
No, this is like what, like 4, 3,
like
those
3,
kind of
4 years old? Yeah.
I used to be a little costume boy. I was a superhero every other day, because
There was I imagine it started after a Halloween season, and you did not want to stop wearing. It might have been Batman. It might have been Spider-Man. You did not want to stop wearing it, and to this day, in a memory box upstairs, I have a few of your Thread-Baron costumes.
you have the blood-soaked one from the wedding. We'll get more into
Red
this.
of the
but-
Spider-Man kind of covered that up, but
Oh yeah. Wait, so it was just a Halloween. I dressed up for like maybe one of my first times, and I was like, "Oh, this is too cool."
you
It's an
didn't.
everyday thing
Yeah,
now.
you did not. You did not want to stop wearing the costumes. You loved the way you felt, and that to me, it completely matches with what I was, when I first checked out the website and was listening, reading it and listening to the video, and I'm thinking, yeah, he that's when he started really noticing how what you're wearing really changes how you feel.
That's a
And-
deep thought, a
and
deep cut.
Well, and I remember when we were looking at the house that we lived in up in Lewis Center, and we went to look at the house, and you were wearing one of your costumes and running around the backyard and just full of life. And after we moved in, the neighbors were like, "Yeah, we saw you looking at the house, and we saw your son," and we thought, "Oh, I wonder if they're going to move in."
That'll be an interesting neighbor to have. And I mean, I see the connection. You're supposed to be full of life when you put on some Scheuneman, and we want you to love how you feel. Maybe
That's
feel
right.
like you got superpowers. You can climb a wall. You got webs shooting out of your no, but like
Well, it's that idea of like just feeling good in what you're wearing and feeling like you can sort of do anything because of that, and enjoying people noticing you because
you were certainly noticed in a Spider-Man outfit.
well, and you would sometimes do performances. I don't know if you remember the time we were in Florida, and it was intermission of
Very vaguely.
some sort of a Camelot show or something that we went to, and you started some sort of breakdance type maneuver and informed us there were like a circle that formed around you of people watching.
I have moves, Marky.
We're talking about Julian, right?
Yes, no,
Yes.
this is the Julian that is dead now.
The Julian that broke his ankle trying to go up a little hill on a skateboard, right? The Julian I don't think I've ever seen dance. I mean, like
any kind of dance moves from me.
jugged a little bit, I would say, but I've never seen you full on break dance.
What you're saying is you don't think that I'm limber enough to get
no.
down on
I think
the
you
boards and break a couple moves out? I mean, yeah, no, I'm not a big dancer anymore because, as I just said, that Julian is dead.
Oh no.
No, but I mean, yeah, I see the connection there, and like feeling like putting something on that's gonna make you feel different than you would if you were wearing just something plain. But also, it's kind of interesting because I've always thought of it as the first time I got into fashion was probably around the time that I met Marquise, because he actually met me for the first time at like some dance I was at, and I was with a date and it was going so poorly that he noticed, and he came over and thought it would be good to give me some off the cuff advice on how I can make this date better. And I had to inform him that of course it's not my fault. It was the date's fault. But in this conversation, we kind of just ended up leaving the whole dance and hanging out and became friends from there. But what I was getting at is, at that dance, keep in mind, it was like a game or a dance, and I had chose to wear a long sleeve plain brown shirt with like athletic shorts that were like bright silver and neon green on the side. And just picture this. And I was like a little chubbier than I am today. I just looked like the biggest dirt ball.
Chubby.
No, the alpaca farm lady definitely shouted me out for being a little chubster and then losing weight when I wasn't. I remember it clearly, just like I remember what I was. This is weird that I remember what I was wearing when I met you. But yeah, I was just wearing terrible things. And when me and Marquise started hanging out, I started picking up on the fact that he actually put thought into what he was wearing. I guess I lost all hope in liking what I was wearing when I couldn't wear Batman suits.
I think that's it, Julian. I think, you get to that age where suddenly you become more self-conscious, and it really sucks, and then you spend time trying to get back to the place that you let go of that again.
Yeah, because I mean, I certainly hopped right back into actually caring about what I was putting on, because I mean, I'm not saying I liked the outfits that I was wearing right when we first started hanging out, but it was just so much of a change from what it was before we started hanging out. And then from there, I just started making my own kind of style, and some people don't love it, but I'm out of the box, and I love to wear out of the box shit. And yeah, I like something that has energy. And
your outfits are insane, man. I feel like you're more into fashion, clothing in general than I am, honestly. Like, I'll rock that casual, like, Vans and stuff, but you'll have, like, multicolored, like, Bape on, and it'll be, like, matching with, like, a plain black shirt that's, like, hold on, like...
I see what you're saying, though.
I'm trying to think of that brand. I'm sorry.
Supreme?
Is this...
Okay, you said Bape. Are you talking about
What's
DGK?
Expensive, like...
Versace, Gucci.
I was thinking, I think it's for
some brand.
Like
Insert brand here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think...
But overall, I would go...
You've always had style, but I think I took what you taught me and ran with it, because I loved collecting pieces that I thought were really cool. I loved getting ready in the morning. As much as I hate mornings, I liked having something to put on that was like, all right, this doesn't completely suck. And I would throw all my money at it. I guess that's how much I enjoyed it. So,
Yeah.
but hey, don't bring me your dealer hoodie any shit. You still got a little bit of fashion. We need cameras.
But
You
you
need to
start-
see what he's wearing right now.
I feel like more like you started taking clothing as like you started collecting clothing. Honestly, like
Yeah.
it's just like collectible to you, and like just certain pieces were just like a prize piece, you know.
Collect these photo tees.
and they're worth. They're not. It's just not simple. It's just like
No, I can't. I don't. There's a time and a place for simple things, but I've never been a big fan of that. Which is, it's crazy how big minimalism is now with like fashion and everything. Like that's what everybody's into. They want just like a simple logo on the chest and then a solid color, a nice material. It's like just, I don't know. I mean, it's cool if you do it right, but it can be boring. So you want to give things a pop. Like I think I've brought this up before, but my craziest piece is one of my favorite pieces because I contacted this like custom clothes dealer, whatever you want to call him. He did like one of one pieces. Real Tech 100, I think was his name. And I contacted him and gave him these insane ideas to work with. And I just told him, like, do what you do because you make crazy clothes already, but like take these ideas and do something with them. And then a year later, I got these pants that were just the most insane thing you've ever seen. And they look like an acid trip, but I just love them because not only do they have things of me on there, like my ideas. I mean, now I have my own brand, which is twice as good, but it was just so me, those pants. I just wish they fit better. So,
What's wrong with the fit?
so these were like sweatpants, and most sweatpants will have like a regular drawstring and like you can tie them to tighten them up, but for some reason these pants had like, it wasn't even a drawstring, it was just one cord that like was exposed on the inside of the middle waist, and like all you can really do is pull it and it will be tight for like a second and then it just goes back. And also they were super
that's a learning
oversized.
experience for your design work.
Yeah, yes, but I guess this is like, I don't know what his process was, but I think he would just have people send in clothes and then he would just chop them the fuck up and design them. Like I think you would get just some random regular pair of pants and then he would put designs all over them. And so I'm not sure if he did that on purpose or if that's how all his pants were, but it wasn't explained to me. I just thought I was getting a classic fitting jogger, so I went with a large, and they're like an XXL, but I still put them on because
that's cool. So like every piece that he brought back to you was just a one of one. You know?
Yeah. There's nothing like what I have that's been made before, and then some other person has something that has their ideas on it, and it's not like anything else that he's made. He doesn't ever recreate designs, and I can't even imagine the work that goes into that because he's putting out like 5 different things a week, and he has to like, I'm sure his brain's so dead from just like using up all those creative juices to like make something new every time. I mean, they're not all winners, but I mean check his page out. It's Real Tech 100. It's definitely a cool dude doing cool shit. Even though when I told him about my brand to say, hey, you know, hopped on your wave, started making my own clothes, check it out, give me some feedback.
Crickets?
Left me on red. So rude.
No.
And as a little bit of a segue, I was so hurt by that I think I needed to get just a little bit of neurofeedback or maybe some counseling.
Yeah, so about that.
Yeah, about that, Mom. That is what, this isn't all we're going to be talking about, but I definitely wanted to talk to you about, I mean, where you started as a counselor and what that's like and maybe what it takes to get there, but also this neurofeedback thing is something that's really interesting to me, and I don't think many people know about it at all. And every time I tell somebody about it, they're like kind of blown away. And it sounds. I mean, I'll let you speak. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I was thinking, when I was thinking about talking about this here, it occurred to me that there's one interesting connection or segue between Scheuneman brand and neurofeedback, or the history of neurofeedback.
Ooh.
And what that is that in the 1960s was some of the first structured research that was done that kind of discovered some things that are still foundational in neurofeedback. And that research was done on what animal?
Cat.
Cats.
Oh.
So this cat connection, right? Because Scheuneman brand.
Well, the logo is technically a Sphinx cat, but we are not a cat brand.
No.
I think the only reason I'm saying that is because I've noticed you tagging us in these cat posts, and it's
Sphinx.
like
Only when it's a sphinx.
No, yeah,
You never-
it's
I have
cool and it gets
Sphinx
it out there.
lovers are gonna want that logo.
I just one thing that we tried to do with the logo is make it look like it's not just a cat. It's like a cool cat. It's a fucking.
I'm not dissing on the logo.
I'm just saying I don't want people to get the wrong idea of like down the line we're not gonna make like a kitten collage hoodie. I just don't want people to get the wrong idea. But maybe since we're gonna be using the word quite a bit in this episode, do you want to just give like a brief definition of what neurofeedback is?
Yeah, sure. So basically, it is let's see, what's the easiest way to say this? It's a form of, because I want to say words that aren't overly technical, but aren't.
You could even
Correct.
just pretend like you're explaining it to a couple 5-year-olds that wouldn't even. Is it easier to use the big words, or is it easier to just be like, here's pretty much what it is? Like, I know people in your field might be like, oh, like that's not how you would explain it, but like if it might be how you explain it if you're explaining it to a couple idiots. I don't know, whatever helps. I mean, I think people will understand. I understood.
Okay, here's one way that I talk about it sometimes to people. Most people know about, that there are medications that people take to help the way they feel, to help the way they think. And that is addressing the chemistry in the brain when we take medication. Neurofeedback helps what we call the circuitry in the brain, meaning the brain waves. We all have, as we sit here right now, brain waves that are going through all the different regions and areas of our brain. We have a circuitry that's happening. And if we had each of us hooked up with sensors on our scalp and we could, connect it to a machine and watch it happening on a screen, you would see all these, you've seen your brain waves, Julian. So you would see all these like squiggles, right? Like that.
It almost looks like the sound waves on
yep.
this, but just like a bunch of them.
And you know what, Julian? It's actually, there's a lot more similarity there than you would even necessarily think, because it's all based on frequency. So there actually is music that you can listen to that stimulates certain brain waves.
I wonder what Drake stimulates.
And so I have even been told by one of my neurofeedback mentors that, if somebody ends a neurofeedback session feeling a little bit maybe not quite alert enough, you have them listen to certain music as they're leaving, because it helps stimulate alpha waves and helps kind of get them back more
like
into
dubstep?
that alert.
Yeah, like what if you did do like dubstep?
That would have to make your brainwaves go off the chart, or with alpha. Like, I mean, the alpha waves are like.
I could have this wrong, but I feel like I was told to have them listen to like Beach Boys or something.
Oh wow,
strange like that.
That's crazy.
But
They need to
anyway,
update that.
so both the sound waves and there are light waves and brain waves that it's all based on frequency. So how many hertz is it? Is it a low frequency? Is it a high frequency? Is it a fast frequency? Is it a slow frequency? And so, anyway, so we all have these brain waves, and each different brain wave, there's alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma, and each of those correlate with like a different degree of alertness or a different degree of thought process, or like, for example, theta waves are more associated with creativity. So when you're in the midst of a creative process, you're really kind of leaning on your theta
I'm
waves.
faded out. I'm faded.
When we're sleeping, it's a lot of delta waves. When we're more alert and like feeling focused, that's more alpha and beta waves. So anyway, there's all these different brain waves, and and also the aspect of different areas of the brain, how they communicate with each other. It's kind of like different areas of the brain are talking to each other all the time.
It's like a big office building going up there. They all have to
It
communicate.
It makes me think of what's that one movie? It's kind of creepy about the guy that has cameras in the apartment complex. He has cameras in everybody's
It's
apartment.
like 13 cameras or something.
I don't know.
Oh no, that's probably
something.
probably isn't talking about that movie. That movie's fucked up.
This movie's older, and I can't
Not the
think of-
Truman Show, right?
No.
I mean, that's just when he's.
That's about the guy. No, I mean, yeah, he's being watched.
I mean, there's cameras everywhere,
cameras.
but it's not just an apartment building. But anyway,
That's gonna bug me. I'll have to figure out what movie. It's an older movie, but some dude's like creeping on people, and he's got cameras in. It's like a high rise or something. He's got cameras in everybody. But there's a scene where he's like just looking at all the cameras, and they have all the noise that's happening in all the different rooms, and it's like you really can't hear anything because you hear everything.
yeah,
And some people's brains feel like that. It's like there's so much going on. There's so much like over communication. Anyway,
I
so
feel like it's kind of like that with anxiety and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's just too much going on. You can't even hear yourself think.
I had a little kid the other day that I was meeting with for the first time, and I asked him, to tell me about what it felt like inside of like his thoughts, and he's like, it feels like this, and he started running around in circles like really, really fast.
That's hilarious.
Which was a great
I feel bad for that kid.
That's a great depiction. So anyway, we all have these brain waves, and a lot of times there are lots of times where people have too much or too little of one of those brain waves. And that is, we call that like the signature of their symptom, like part of what they're dealing with. Like, so let's say somebody is super anxious all the time.
High beta waves.
Correct.
But pretty much you can like see what someone's going through from how their waves are in their brain. Like
Right. So I can do what's called a QEEG, or a qualitative EEG, and it essentially put that funky cap on, that has all the 19 sensors, and you can get a reading of people's brain waves, get a recording, and then run that through a certain database analysis, and it will basically say, okay, this person has too much beta in this area, or not enough alpha in this area, or too much theta in this area, or this person has this area of the brain is over communicating with some other area of the brain. Is this like
no,
sleep?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it seems like don't you pretty much give the brain triggers to start like lowering or
Right.
increasing certain waves just
So-
through
Right. So once we determine that, okay, this person, let's say not enough alpha. So what we say is like, all right, we're going to create a protocol that's going to help get the brain to produce more alpha. So you put a sensor on the head, you plug that into the computer, and you say in this computer program, and I don't write the programs, I just know how to set it up, and
Yeah.
say into the computer, okay, every time this person's brain makes alpha, there's going to be a beep, or there's going to be a flicker on the screen that they're watching while they're going through this process.
because you're pretty much just
So-
watching like a TV
Yeah, you
while you're
just-
doing this.
Okay.
Watch something on a screen, and then I put a what's called a dimmer window over the screen. So
Yeah,
every
just like
time
flickers.
the person makes alpha, there's a beep. And doesn't make alpha, it's not beeping. Makes alpha again, it beeps. Doesn't make alpha, it's not beeping. And so your brain, without you even realizing it, starts to say, oh, I want to make more alpha. The beep is a reward. So, and
Like
that's
rats. We just look for patterns and we're trying to
well,
recreate
so
those
I don't know
patterns.
what you remember about, any of your some little bit of psychology you learned in high school where they talked about Pavlov's dog.
That's familiar. And
It's basically where, they had the dog and they would ring a bell and give him a treat.
yeah,
And then pretty soon they would just ring the bell and the dog would salivate,
I've
because he knew he was going to get a treat. So
Yeah.
that's what they call, a form of conditioning.
I've also heard of a study where I don't know necessarily what, I think it was like a bird or maybe a rat, but they would like put it in a box and they would pretty much just ran at complete random times. They would give it like it was either like sugar or it might have even been like cocaine. Like it was just some sort of reward. They would just drop it in the cage at random times and the animal would start trying to figure out what it did
Right.
to get that reward.
Right.
So if you do it for long enough, the animal will just start like making these crazy rituals just because it thinks that, oh, maybe it's because I did this to get that. So it'll start like, if I run in 2 circles, I'm going to get this sugar. And it's like it just pretty much goes insane trying to figure out how to make it happen more.
Yeah.
And so
So-
we're looking for patterns. Like,
But with neurofeedback, the difference is you don't have to get it. Like you don't have to realize what's happening. It's your brain is learning it on its own.
it's
So
Well, have you seen the videos of like the dogs where they have the buttons that say like go outside or treat or like it would say human or something. The dog will walk up and press it, it'd be like human outside, treat now or something.
So it'll pretty much like press a
Be like
button
50 buttons of random words, and it'll know what.
from what happens pretty much. Like it'll be like, oh, I pressed this button and the human came out. So when I want a human, I'll just start pressing that
Yes,
button.
exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just pretty crazy because like you said, you don't really have to get what's happening. Your brain just does all the work for you. And it's such a crazy form of therapy because you're pretty much just sitting down, you watch a show, you're listening to like a couple beeps and watching like a dimmer on the screen, and you sit there for like 30 minutes and whatever it is you're there for, like for me it was like anxiety and things like that. You get through the session and then the next day it's like your brain has taught itself how to have less of those issues. Like that's my dumb way of explaining it. Like
no, that's not dumb. And and you're right. It is usually there's a few different protocols that I use that sometimes people feel something right in the moment, but typically it is more like kind of the next day or after your brain goes through like a sleep cycle. But it's like it learns it, and so the idea is that you just have to repeat that enough times that then your brain gets the hang of it and can do it on its own.
So, like, just for people listening, what are some things that neurofeedback can help with? Because I know we've said, like, anxiety and things like that, like depression, but I've heard you tell me a couple, like, crazy things that it seems like neurofeedback can help with. Like, this can be insanely helpful for a lot of people, and I don't think people realize that their issues might fall under the category of being able to be helped from this. So what are some of those things?
Well, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, that's a huge one. Migraines.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
I have one client that she'd had migraines like almost every day, if not like most days of the week for years. And after doing, I think it only took maybe 2 or 3 trainings, she has not had a migraine in like months.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it took
I mean, isn't that
That
just
wasn't
crazy
the right way
though?
to say it, but they went away, and we continued the neurofeedback for a period of time. Now we've stopped it, and it's holding on its own.
So is it is the neurofeedback helping with like the pain receptors that like get flared up? Like, okay, so is it kind of stopping the pain by not having the pain receptors like, I guess, receive what triggers the migraine, or is it like stopping the migraine from happening? I don't really understand how migraines work, but it sounds like you're almost like numbing them to the pain. Are you numbing them, or are you completely stopping the migraine from happening? I guess is my question.
I would.
That's a deep question.
Yeah.
It is. You're digging deeper into the science than I can even go. I mean, what I can say is that when there, like again, going back to the whole thing, it's about circuitry, frequency, and so when the brain has certain things going on that trigger. Yeah, and I don't know, Julian. That's a great question. I don't know exactly how the like, for example, with migraines, we look for what are the areas in the brain where the person's got the highest amount of beta waves, and you target those specific areas. And so somehow, some way, that results in the person, and that's not the only way to do it, but they go away. So that's a great question, and I think like a lot of science, like a lot of treatments that we do, there's a lot of things we still don't totally understand about how it works. Seizures, people with seizure disorders, that's another thing that it helps. People that have had concussions, that have had traumatic brain injury.
Didn't you say something about how it can help with, like, if you're an alcoholic, didn't you say that it can almost make you nauseous thinking about?
Okay, so that's an interesting neurofeedback story. Yeah. So yes, it is helpful with addiction, and there is a specific type of neurofeedback, and you've done a couple of these sessions. I think it's called alpha theta training. It's a little different than the other types of neurofeedback. But there was a person who did some studies. His last name was Ptsd, and he had these. I believe they were. I don't know if they were all alcoholics or just certain types of drug addicts, but they were in a treatment center, like a residential treatment center, and he did alpha theta training with them every day for a certain number of days, and they literally developed an allergic reaction to the substance they had been addicted to. And
Does that stop the cravings though?
Yeah.
well, I think it does by the sense that, your brain doesn't picture your brain doesn't picture, oh, it's going to feel so good. Your brain pictures, something else that you don't want.
I'm not really sure how withdrawals work, but I wonder if you follow, like, that's the thing with neurofeedback. I feel like if you put enough money or time into studying it, it could do so much more than what it already does. Like, the brain can be manipulated in so many different ways. You could really hack into it and get it to, like, you could really help so much. And I guess that's why I have so many deep questions about it. Like, could it stop a migraine from even happening, or could it just completely numb that pain receptor when it senses a migraine from happening? Because it's like, if they knew how to do that, I feel like they could through this avenue. I don't know if that's making sense, but
Well, basically, I mean, the brain is the most powerful, fascinating thing that there is.
yeah,
It controls
the
everything.
most confusing thing. Like, it's crazy that we are controlled by our brain, but we don't even understand.
And so basically, we're trying to take technology and match it with the power of the brain and get that to work for you, instead of, sometimes we feel like our brain works against us, right?
Yeah.
Like when we're, overthinking. But that's another thing that a lot of my clients deal with, is like people that just, obsess about things. Sleep is another huge thing.
So can it help with OCD? Like,
Yes.
as you mentioned, obsessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not like a placebo effect, is it? It's just
No.
No, it's
No.
like literally retraining your brain to just handle, like, the dumb version to say it and how I've explained it is, it's training your brain to handle situations in a better way.
So you actually send like
You're sending neurons, right?
No, and that's a common misperception. No, that's okay. It doesn't, like, I'll have people that I have done neurofeedback with for a long time, and all of a sudden they'll be like, so wait a minute, you're not putting any current into my brain? Because it's hard to wrap your brain around it.
Literally.
That I could, literally, that I've got this sensor on your scalp, and you're experiencing changes. Like, I have people say to me things like, I don't know, it's just like I started to have that thought that I normally have, and then it just went away, like a bad thought. Or they'll say, well, I feel like I just have more space in my brain to choose how to feel or how to think. Or I had a client the other day say to me, that I was in this one situation, and it suddenly hit me like, I normally would be really anxious in this situation, and I'm not.
No, I can relate to what you're saying, because I do it, and that's why I try to put people onto it, because it's the craziest thing. It's just like, the stuff that I go through is mostly just like depression and anxiety and like dark thoughts and stuff like that, and being negative. And after my neurofeedback or my trainings, whatever you want to call it, it's like the day after I literally feel more positive. Like the way I think, the way I wake up, the way I handle a bad thing, like it's so cool. And I can't even imagine how much of a difference somebody with bigger issues or harder issues would feel from something like that.
PTSD is another big one,
or like panic attacks from PTSD.
Absolutely.
So like I'm saying, like, if somebody is used to having panic attacks all the time, that must be terrible, and it's such a painful thing to go through when you're like freaking out over things you can't control. And so imagine something as easy as watching a Netflix show for 30 minutes just stops that stress from your life.
Yeah. Well, and I have people that like have chronic nightmares, and they suddenly start having really cool dreams. Like, I have one client that she always had dreams about, being chased and being attacked and all this stuff. And then after she did a certain amount of neurofeedback, she has the coolest dreams, and they're all about flying.
Oh, wow.
And about like,
it's like the opposite of being chased.
Some sort of, creature in the ocean, like, the opposite.
And I've been thinking about this for like a couple minutes, but like, so when you do it, you have like a couple wires that are just kind of practically glued to your head.
We got away from the whole.
But I just wanted to say, like, so the wires that are attached to your head, those are just purely to sense waves, not
Correct.
to do anything.
It's just reading. It's a sensor, and then there's what's called electropaste.
Okay.
And electrogel.
Good hair gel.
Which
it gives you that messy, I woke up like this kind of.
It does. It does. It's we've called it the what about Mary, look.
Yeah. So the only thing that's affecting your brain or whatever is the noises and the dimmer.
Correct. So we're reading the waves from the sensor, and then based on what the waves are doing and the way the program that's set up is set up, it will do the beep or do the flicker when certain things are happening in the brain waves.
Okay.
And that is the form of, it's like the beep is saying to your brain, do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again. Do it again. And the silence is saying to your brain, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to actively, consciously interpret it. But the other thing that it can be very helpful with, and I know you've had some conversations about this when your dad was on here, but people with what's now dissociative identity disorder, previously multiple personality disorder.
Anybody catch that? Okay. All right. You're flexing, Mom? Are you flexing?
Those are big words here.
No, not that. I think Dad called it the wrong thing when he was on here.
No.
The retro thing.
No, he said what both.
Oh, okay.
The then and the now.
I didn't mean that in any negative way.
No.
I thought it would be funny, but.
I'm telling.
So it helps. What does it just kill off those other personalities? It's just like killing off people in a series.
Okay, no. I have clients that, some of the most fascinating work I do with neurofeedback is my clients who have they have dissociative identity disorder. They have parts of self that had severe trauma, and they go into, it's usually the alpha theta training that we do, but they go into these sort of meditative type states, and they're able to basically communicate with those parts of
Like,
themselves.
yo, chill out. Stop
Sorta.
coming up at like family reunions and making me strip naked.
If we
Not
wanted,
no offense to anybody dealing with that, but yeah. So
if we wanted to I mean, basically to go in and have a little chit chat with parts,
that must be freaky though.
or have a part basically share a memory. I have people who know they've had trauma, but they don't know what it is, and they are practically like debilitated in life, but they'll go into like these trainings and they come out and they're like, oh my God, now I know what happened.
So you can pretty much dig up repressed memories with these alpha theta.
I never do that as the goal, but that
that's-
does sometimes happen.
Wow.
And but in doing that, see, I said we could get way into the weeds here. And
I mean, this podcast is all about the weeds.
but when people have multiple personality disorders, a lot of times that is all because these secrets have gotten tucked away. You know, it's like some really awful thing happened. You can't handle it, so you push it down, and some other part comes out to deal with
a
it.
really weird, trippy thought. So is it almost like the different personalities? It's like you have one personality that has that repressed memory, doesn't remember that happened, and just went on like burying it. But then maybe one of those other personalities is like comes out every now and then, and that's like the personality of if you remembered it and if you were living with this. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. It just seemed kind of hippy dippy, but like
Well,
it's almost like
you have the memory, but then you have all these ways that you protect yourself from the memory. So you have a part that's like a badass
yeah.
that is like, screw that. Hey, you haven't even said the word fuck, not even once.
Maybe it's my nice holy mother just in the room. I said fuck a couple times. I did. But yeah, no, I even said friggin' in the first 5 seconds.
It's the mom effect, right?
Yeah, it really is. Not
Well,
that
let's
we're
just-
getting
let's
monetized,
just,
but
I mean, I can talk like a sailor with the best of them, but I have to say I appreciate your,
I'm trying to be a respectable man, as I've heard from a couple people that I come off as a bit of an asshole on the podcast. So I'm trying not to sound too much.
I have not sensed that at all.
I don't know.
Of course, I'm your mom, so
I don't know.
I'm gonna be the last one to think that. But
I feel like sometimes I don't express my thoughts and how I want to express them, or sometimes I'll make a joke and it'll either sound more serious than it is, or it sounds like I mean it more than I do. And that's more just in regular social life. But yeah, I've heard a couple of times on the podcast that I sound like a trashy man. Trashier than I am. So it wasn't too. Yeah, I'm trying to.
There was one that was a little over the top.
I'm
but
trying
anyway,
I'm trying to clean up.
what I was trying to say, and just to kind of go. So there could be a part that's kind of like the fuck you, fuck the world part, and then there's a part of self that like tries to make everybody happy and make everybody like that.
Yeah.
It's like basically it's all ways of protecting the vulnerable parts.
Yeah,
of
that
self.
was telling. I don't know how much this has to do with the point you're getting at, which I understand. But yeah, I think it's cool how there's like different types of personalities that people with multiple personality disorder. That's just how I know it. Have. So he would tell me how one of his patients had like a personality that was way more like sexual and like in your face
it's
about
a coping
it.
mechanism.
Yeah, and so I wonder, is there like ever personalities that like use more or like want just to get their hands on like,
and there's it's
physical coping
it's really
mechanisms?
crazy, like some of the research and things. I don't, I personally have not done any of this, but it's really crazy how they will say like when someone's in one part of self, they can literally have the addiction, but then when they're in another personality, they don't have the addiction or the cravings.
And that's just how crazy the brain is. It's
and
like
one thing I would love to do, but I don't know that I'll ever have the time to do it, but with some of my clients that are I'm curious how their different, brain maps would look if we consciously brain mapped them,
like one personality versus the next. Because
Yeah.
I'm sure the badass personality would have all these alpha waves, and then maybe like the more sedated, maybe regular personality that they have in day-to-day life would be like full of beta waves. That's just alpha and beta is like the baseline knowledge that I have. It's like alpha dude, beta I don't know.
Or like,
I don't know.
what if like taking medicine or something?
Yeah.
Does it, like, have you ever had a patient like
Have different waves from different
like,
medicines?
Yeah,
So
different.
there are certain medications that will affect the brain waves. Not all medicines show up in the brain. Now, there are people like there's somebody who I'm very fascinated by. I like to listen to his podcasts,
Shout it out.
Jay Gunkelman.
Make sure you come back to the Scheuneman Show. Jake Unkelman. We
But
like to support.
he's like totally, he can look at someone's brain waves and tell things that are just beyond detail.
It's like a real life psychic.
Like
that you can
basically, it's
actually
like
believe.
reading your palm or reading your tea leaves or whatever, but it's in your brain waves. And so he's much better at being able to look at something and know if somebody's, maybe possibly taking a certain kind of medication or possibly has, certain medical issues. I mean, stuff that I can't even begin to discern from brainwaves.
Well, I mean, that's not to blow smoke or anything, but I mean, you know a lot about it. But it's fair to say, like, you started getting into this, like, what, 5 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years
Yeah.
ago. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it is a steep learning curve, and I am still learning. I'm definitely still learning.
I
but
mean, you come across like you know your shit, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like a really big field to be getting into. There's a lot, like, of ways you can learn more. Or
constantly. I mean, just the other day I was on a call because I've several people that I talk with every week. We just pick each other's brains and try to figure out what we're doing with clients. Like, it's just really important to me that I keep learning and growing and doing the best I can to help people. And it never fails on those calls. Every week there's something that I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's new information, or oh, that's a new way to think about that. But
before I forget, unless you had a thought that you were right about to say, but I feel like I'm gonna forget. When you mentioned how some people have like problems with nightmares and the trainings can help put a stop to those, I do think it's noteworthy to say, like, when you do these trainings, when you do these trainings,
now you're getting dirty.
when you do these trainings, sometimes you'll, mostly just in the beginning, so don't let this freak you out of it, but you will get some crazy dreams. Like, even smoking kind of kills dreams.
Yeah.
But even while smoking, you will get these really detailed dreams. And for me, they've always been like wilderness kind of dreams, like
Really?
being
I don't think you've ever told me that.
I think I told you about the time I had a dream where I was like running through the woods and a flaming bear was chasing me.
Oh, well, that's when you said I need a freaking training. I said frickin'.
Yeah, and I was being chased by a flaming bear, and I jumped off of a cliff and into this like big lake, and then I remember the last thing in the dream was me looking up at the flaming bear like falling down on me. So I don't know what that. I love thinking about what dreams mean, and the only thing I can think of with that is like I thought I was in the clear for something, and then I wasn't.
Well, I think that's when I was out of town, and you texted me, and you're like, "Dude, like, can Colin give me a training?" Because that's the other cool thing here, right? Connection that Colin.
Oh yeah, Colin helps you out with.
Owner of Scheuneman brand is my neurofeedback tech.
Yes, sir.
And if you would, that's just trippy right there, because he and I will be texting about work stuff sometimes. I'll be like, okay, for so-and-so, will you, increase their, C3, C4 training by 0.5 and do this and do that. And I'll send that text and I'll look at him like, damn.
You're talking to your son.
I am talking to my son.
And you're talking about this on your other son's show.
I know, right? it's
crazy world.
Well, pinch me. I'm a lucky person that's happening. But he had been, when I was learning it and getting into it, I was doing some training on him. Shouldn't talk about his experience without him here, but he was experiencing benefit from it, and I was telling him, yeah, this is cool stuff, but man, I'm gonna have to have some help with it. I can't do this all myself.
I mean, this is not many people do it in Ohio, so you have a flood
definitely not many in Columbus, and the counseling part of what I do is still very important to me, so I don't want to give that up. But anyway, and Colin's like, well, what's it take to do it? And I'm like, well, you'd have to go through this, training, and you do this and do that. And he's like, well, I'll do it. And
that's still pretty crazy to me, going into my sessions and he's doing it.
Yeah.
And he's like,
but anyway, back to your dream. I think you had texted me, you're like, I need a training. And I'm like, are you struggling? Are you I don't know, whatever. I was probably momming on you. And
I know I need a
see
training
how you were
when
doing.
I'm stressing every day.
And you were like,
anxious.
well, and then you told me about like being chased by
a flaming bear.
bears or something.
Yeah, I also there was another time where a dream told me that I needed a training, and it was when that dream, I thought I remembered it being because of getting a training recently, but maybe not. If I was texting you while you're out of town trying to get a training,
before. But you're right though that people do have wild dreams a lot of times.
I also had a dream when I stopped for a while because, like you said, if you keep up with it, it kind of sticks, but then sometimes you might need to go in after a while to like re-stick it. I don't know. But yeah, I needed to re-stick it because I had a dream.
Re-stick it.
I had a dream that everybody that I loved in my life, including you, Marquise,
What?
sat down and just looked at me and was like, I hate you. You're a big piece of shit. I don't like you. Here's why. Why would you even think I like you? Like, you need to get out of my life, actually. It was just every one of the people in my life just telling me why they hated me and how I was a piece of shit. I woke up and I was like, wow, I feel good. I feel really good. Yeah, and it was that wasn't fun.
The best feeling ever is when I get, the texts from you or from my clients, like, because usually I text like the day or two later. I check in with people. Just to follow up and make sure, because it's very rare for someone to have like, it's not like I can make them start clucking like a chicken or anything. It's very rare for people to have a negative response. But every once in a while, somebody might feel a little sluggish, or they might get a headache, or they might feel not the best or whatever. So I always follow up with people like 24 to 48 hours later, and it's like my favorite thing, one of my favorite things in life, when I get that text that's like, oh man, I feel so much better, or
and usually if they're willing, you could probably, like, if they're feeling sluggish, you can usually just switch up the like program they're doing, and you can make them not have that negative reaction to it. But yeah, it's also crazy because mine is mine more common to where it's just a dimmer and the like beeps, or do more people tend to do the one that interested me a bit where like they kind of go into that hypnotic state of just like closing their eyes and then they hear like the beeps and that's really it, and then you kind of just feel like floaty a little bit after a little while.
The training, like the beeps, like the one you were referring to, we call that like amplitude training, but that's more common.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So yeah, I thought it was cool. I was getting therapy while catching up on shows. So yeah, it's just killing two birds with one stone. But yeah, it's just a really I just think more people need to try it, and I think that some people listen to me talk about it or listen to us talk about it might think it's like a bunch of hoopla, or it sounds like too good to be true. It sounds like some palm reading shit or something. But no, I mean, I literally feel a difference, and I went in with I wasn't expecting it not to work, but I was like, okay, like I wouldn't have gone back and put the time in to keep going if I didn't recognize a difference. So I did, and it really helped me. So I try to tell any of my friends that are struggling with something that could be helped by this to fucking try it out. But it's surprising. Most people just won't follow up with it. I don't know what freaks them out about it or what, or they just don't have the time. But it's always interested me.
Well, I think showing up because you're struggling with something is always a hard thing to
yeah, that's
do.
true.
Because it's by acknowledging that, like, I need help of some sort.
But I mean, like, you see differences. I mean, I don't know. You would know more than I do, Mom. But like with the neurofeedback, you see differences probably twice as fast with that than you do talking about your issues and digging up stuff and just going back and forth with a counselor for months. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you get quicker
Yeah, I mean, that's
help.
kind of
Sometimes you do
why
both.
that's why I got into it, because I've been a counselor for a lot of years, and I'm trained in a lot of things, like EMDR and all sorts of stuff, and yet there were some clients that, like, you just feel like, man, they're just not getting as much better as I would like. They're just not getting the relief I would like. What else could I possibly offer them? And then
I mean, you just really have to open up sometimes, and some people really struggle with that for therapy to work. I mean, like,
yeah,
I've tried to do regular therapy many times, and I just can never stick with it. So something where you can get kind of faster results, and it's kind of easier, and you don't have to, like, put yourself out there and talk about a bunch of stuff every week is way easier for me. So
yeah. Well, and what I've observed is that for some of my clients that just didn't know, they just couldn't even find the words sometimes to, like, talk about stuff. But then after they do the neurofeedback, their brain is just functions better. They can put thoughts and words together better, and they actually get better results from therapy. So it's not that I like, stop doing the therapy stuff.
because they do typically work best together, right? Like therapy along with the neurofeedback.
Yeah, that's ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, I just moved the mic around away from me as I spoke. That's a cool new habit that I picked up.
I've not heard any ums, though.
I killed the
Very few.
very well, I think. There's likes and buts and little things like that,
You
but
said butts.
but yeah, I could not. The second I caught myself doing the thing, and I brought it up probably on like 3 episodes since now, but I was like, that is so hideous. I cannot do that, and I don't think I really did it in everyday conversation, but I definitely don't now because it's like a thing in the front of my head now. If I say it's like I'm getting a brainwave that goes.
It's like you're conditioning yourself.
Yeah. I literally called Colin up that day that I was editing. I was like, "How you think I can stop this? Like, I need to stop this."
It's
I might have even called
remarkable,
you.
actually, because I think a lot of people do that, a lot of public speakers, and they have a hard time stopping that habit. They go to, like, coaching and training to interrupt those kind of things.
Yeah, I'm my own coach, I'm fucking big dog up here. But yeah, I'm going to say something that I always say in almost every episode, but we're at like an hour and I feel like there's so much more that there is to talk about with this. And the thing that I was going to say that I always say is we should definitely have like a part 2 if you're willing, because we only just got into the, whatever you want to say. We just got into it. I feel like there's so much more that you could say about neurofeedback and counseling. And I had questions about stories from counseling, but those are a little in the weeds because you don't want to bring up people's personal business, but I just like me some stories. But yeah, it was.
I know when you were growing up, I would oftentimes use certain stories as my attempt at little life coaching, especially when I was working in the crime victims program. And
This person is dealing with
Yeah,
this issue because they did this, so maybe you shouldn't do that.
Well, I hope I wasn't that heavy-handed with it.
No, I didn't really
But,
catch it.
You know,
Until you said that.
This person was in this place and this thing happened, and just trying to make you aware of,
Well, even a funny story can teach you a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
I have stories that could teach some children some lessons. But yeah, I kind of just said we should probably just. I want to talk more about neurofeedback, but I kind of just do have to wrap that up because there's just a couple things that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
Brand wise, right before we get out of here,
yeah,
because
we
this is
wouldn't
another.
be here without that.
Dude, we love the brand, dude. But
We love it.
this is another one of those late night episodes. Last second, Julian's gonna be up until 6:30 editing. But yeah, it's almost Sunday, and you guys are gonna get in on Sunday. So this is the love that we put into it here at the Scheuneman brand.
Julian last week, he goes, "I'll have it out by this afternoon on Sunday, or afternoon on Sunday." Ends up being 5, 6 o'clock.
Hey, there was one time it was my fault, and then maybe it was somebody else's fault the second time, but I don't know. Actually, no, it might have been my fault both times.
I didn't even say. I just said the afternoon. I meant 12 o'clock this afternoon, and then ended up being 5 to 6 o'clock.
Yeah, well, see what happened that time was when you send it in an email to get posted, it's such a big file that sometimes it'll say it's sent, but it hasn't fully sent yet. So I sent it, I thought, and then closed my laptop, and then it just canceled the send. And then so I drove away from home, and I live 30 minutes away from everything I do. So It's a huge hassle to get back home. So I was at work, and then I get a text hey, email didn't send. It's only on my laptop, so I'm like, fuck.
Get back to doing it Wednesdays.
That's what we usually try to do, but
Thursday you could edit everything.
I'm just kidding.
But you can schedule.
What? I was never invited on Wednesday.
No, Wednesdays is a me and him thing, but I told you Thursday or Friday, but then there were more important things to be done on Friday.
Yeah.
But maybe
you can schedule it on YouTube to be posted whenever you want it to.
Yeah, we need to start banking these for sure, because I might be going somewhere for a little bit, and I need to bank 3 or 4 with you, because I'm going to be going somewhere. But
what?
That's a story for another day.
Oh my gosh.
So you were going to say something about the brand.
I was just going to say that we've got a couple updates about this pop-up coming up in Polaris, which we are insanely excited for. Please come check us out. Bottom floor pop-up location right by Saks, the favorite store. Well, as opposed to the Scheuneman brand website. But, one day you'll be finding Scheuneman and Saks. You never know. But anyway, yeah. Go to Polaris on the 28th. That's a Monday. And that should be the first week that we start our 3-week-long pop-up, and you can come say hi, you can come feel the quality, try stuff on, get you something nice. I've been designing some nice signs that are going to be up there. We're going to do a live podcast episode there, possibly have some random guests run by, just complete strangers, have them spout whatever.
Get some spontaneous response to the brand,
to the clothes, but also I want to hear what people are thinking, and I want to get some interesting characters on there. I want them to say what we can't, if that makes any sense. But maybe we'll hear about the end of the world is nigh, or we'll hear about why Elvis is still alive. You never know with strangers. I feel like a lot of people have.
Maybe you should
a lot of stuff going on.
Do some sentence completion exercises, come up with a few sentence starters and say, complete this sentence. See what you get.
That's something. Yeah, we could. So, but damn, I didn't even get to talk about how my mom was so motherly with this episode. She came with pizza, cocktails, and Skittle jelly beans.
And cookies.
And cookies.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Cookies and cocktails. It's just lovely. So no F-bombs flew because I got pizza in my belly and a nice dirty Shirley. But yeah, so pop-up 28th, 3-week long. Come check it out. It's going to be a great time. Maybe you can get on the podcast. And this episode was a fun time. We'll have you back on, Mom.
Would love to.
And next week we're gonna be having another rapper on.
Oh,
Tell you about that?
Ooh.
no,
I don't think I can tell you live on air, but I think you know who it is. I think he's excited to be on because he was actually.
Why can't you say it live?
I don't want them to know.
No.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
them as in those
plus, you don't
listeners.
know him.
Okay.
But yeah, that'll be fun because I know you guys like that Matt Damon Jet Smith interview. I see that one got
That's the most popping one, isn't it?
pretty much. I mean, dude, I don't know what it is, but the one we did last week, I've gotten the most people saying this was the funniest or this was my favorite episode. But
Of last week?
Yeah, but people said it was the slowest view climb. It was the slowest like everything. But a lot of people like I'm not one to be like, oh yeah, I did so great. But like I've had quite a few people be like, that was funny as fuck.
Sweet.
And I mean, but yeah, I mean, yeah, good episode. Talk to you guys later. Love you. Scheuneman Brand. Fucking Keys. Don. Ciao.